Hey, and we're live. Welcome to episode 2 of What's Politicking You Off. I think everyone should introduce themselves, so I will go first. My name is Linda, aka Long Hair Linda.
And I'm Lambs.
Mike, Red Lion Picture, Mortality for the merch. Let's go.
And so what? It's your boy, Bits and Bobs, and let's get it.
So good to have you on Bits and Bobs, because I know last time you connected, I think, for a second and then had to go again. So it's really good to have you on this week.
I was at the park with my son, and I was like, okay, this is a bit quiet area. So I stood in the corner to try and connect, but yeah, it was woeful. But I'm here, so I'm good to go. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Amazing. Well, we've already got a few viewers tuning in. I can see a couple of people in the comments. Thank you so much, man like MB, for encouraging people to share and like and all that good stuff. Appreciate you. And you also mentioned, Malcolm Zilla, big up the Mandem. And then again, great show yesterday. I think you're referring to the Talk About It Network special. Thank you. I remember parts of it. There was a lot of rum involved. So, glad you enjoyed. Hi, Charlie. Okay, cool. So for those of you who tuned in on episode 1, first of all, thank you for coming back and for watching the first time around. That was such a great discussion. We're kind of a little bit all over the place because we didn't really have like a structure or anything, but we just knew that there was so much that was going on in the world and we wanted to have a discussion about it. And so far had such great positive feedback, which is amazing. This time around, we're going to kind of play around a little bit with the idea of segments just to kind of split things up a little bit and have an easy to follow episode, hopefully. So for the first segment, what we're going to do is talk about what's been in the news, particularly over the last couple of weeks, or the hot topics, what's been kind of going viral. So I wanted to bring up the Home Office and their procurement card spending that was published for the year of 2020. Bearing in mind, by the way, this was a department-wide. It wasn't, a lot of people tried to say that this was Priti Patel's spending. No, it was the whole of the Home Office. And it was for the year of 2020. Also, please do bear in mind that we were in a pandemic and we weren't really supposed to be going anywhere, which makes some of the charges very, very interesting. So I am going to share my screen just so that you can see it. I don't know if it's going to be legible, but we shall find out. And then we can go through each one if everyone's cool with that.
Yeah.
So let me share my screen and pretend like I know stuff. There you go. Okay, so hopefully you can see that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Maybe I should zoom in a little bit. No, that takes too much. Okay, cool. There we go. Right. Okay. So if we start maybe from the bottom, because it's in a weird order. So 24th of January, £2,000 at Claudia Lamb Independent. And the person who put this list together put a little note saying it seems as though Claudia Lamb is a diet consultant. So do you think that that's public spending, diet consultant for the Home Office? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
No, I think have they not got Google? Is there not internet? Like, you could literally just send a message to Joe Wicks. What was his name? John, whatever his name is. Is it Joe? Is it Joe? Yeah, Joe Wicks. Yeah, like the body coach. They're taking the mic. Like, really? Sorry, I didn't want to jump in front of you guys.
Or if you want to go for the free alternative, the productive alternative that the rest of us who, don't have money disposable to us like that, there are so many YouTube channels that can show you healthy recipes, different ways of eating, a way to change your nutrition as well, meal prep according to like your day, your schedule, your routine. There are also so many different workout videos, routines, exercises that you can do as well to literally tailor-made according to your body goals, specific to what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to do. And it's free. Not a penny spent.
It's free. Boy.
Is it
Just
So
cut out
it's
the middle, because basically what Claudia Lamert, she's basically like a middleman, basically. She's somebody that you pay to kind of do all of that for you and just kind of tailor make your own personal plans and recipes and whatever for you, when you can actually just do that yourself and save. That's £2,000 saved, apparently.
I was going to say, is it? So it's from the Home Office. So could it have been like they've hired her to produce information to be put out to the public? Have they hired her to do that? Is that what that is, or is it for literally someone to have their own diet plan? There's the difference. Is it a Home Office procuring something that they're going to put out to the public, which is probably £2,000 for a whole UK rollout? Is not that bad. But if it is just for someone having their personal diet, it's wild, like stupidly wild.
But is that even a debate though? Like, if you're saying, right, listen, guys, we need to watch the waistline. Everyone needs to, drop a few pounds, whatever. We're all gonna be healthy. Do you really, really need to pay someone for that advice? All jokes aside, think about it. If you think to yourself, I'm going to lose weight, what do you cut out? The junk food. You drink water instead of fizzy juice. That's self-advisory. So I hear what you're saying, Mike. Like, I do get it as well. And it's a very good question and debate. But like, for me, I'm just thinking, like, people are starving, man. Like, really? Is this what you guys are doing out here? There's people that get universal credit. Some people don't. Like, oh, man. It takes...
People lining up at food banks as well. Yeah. I see them all the time when I'm out and about, and the queues seem to be getting longer and longer. To me, it seems.
And I think it's also important to mention with regards to the food banks, especially people relying on public funds, on benefits. It's also important to mention that this is, January, so it was just before the pandemic, at least in terms of our lockdown here in this country. And I think it's important to mention that all of those services were still heavily relied on by very many people in this country, even before the pandemic. So it only got worse during the pandemic with the unemployment rate going up so high. And the poverty rate going up so high. So I think you're right in that sense that there's a lot of people that need this public money, and to spend £2,000 on a diet consultant, if it was for the public, I would push back and say that's not your job. That's actually not your department. Public Health England would be dealing with that, and they are the executive agency of the Department of Health and Social Care in the UK. That should have been an expense that was theirs. So this shouldn't have been an expense for the Home Office if it was for the public. If it was for their own consumption, i.e. their own benefit, like Lam said, there are lots of free resources out there. It's January. Everyone's trying to lose weight in January. There are all types of free stuff that is out there in January, all types of discounted stuff that's out there. And you don't have to take the free stuff. You can choose to be a snob. But if you're going to be, I mean snob, not to offend anyone, but you can choose to say that that free stuff is beneath you and you want to pay for stuff. That's absolutely well within your right. But use your money. Don't use ours. Exactly. Don't use taxes. Use your money to pay for things that you can get for free. Use your money.
And Linda, just to basically expand on that, I think because the cost seems so low, I don't think it was for the public. I think it was personalized, like tailor-made for one, possibly two people max.
100%. There's no way that a diet consultant is going to charge you £2,000. A diet consultant that is well known is going to charge you £2,000 for anything that's for public consumption. They will try and get a lot more money, as they should, because that's a lot of work and a lot of exposure. So let's move on to February, the 27th of February, £900 at the Magdalen Arms. So it seems that the efforts to get healthier have been abandoned, as with most people once the January's up. And they said, you know what, let's head to a pub together, guys, £900 at the pub. Now, again, why is the public paying for this? Why are we paying for your several rounds of drinks? Why? Can anyone think of any justification where taxes should be used for a pub visit? Any scenarios that would work?
No, not at all. Because if you think about it, why should when we all work, we make money and we pay tax? Cool. So you telling me I'm going to work. I'm spending time on my laptop. So Patel and that could have a pint. Literally, that's what it is. And that's factual, isn't it? Just because what we're talking about is factual here. So for me, this is ridiculous. In fact, it's not even ridiculous. This is shambolic. Literally, like there's £900 in a pub. Guys, all due respect, yeah. If you go with your mates to a bar, you're not even spending anywhere as half as that. Do you know what I mean? Not even half. What, say a quarter of £900? £900. What are you drinking in a pub?
Listen, I used to live in London, and I was a student as well at university in London. And so, there will be those days where you get when your student loan kicks in and you think that you're richer than you actually are because budgeting is not for you, apparently. At least that was my experience. The day of student loan day, even on them days when the student loan hits your account and you feel rich, because I was still working also. So I was used to getting a little bit of part-time money, and then that student loan hits and you're like, I'm just spending. Even in those days, even in expensive ass London, I have not spent no £900 in a pub. I just haven't. It's not a thing. It's not a thing that you do, and it's certainly not a thing that you do with public money.
It's not possible.
It just isn't.
Guys, even when you go on holiday, you go for all-inclusive. Like, what?
Well, you know what? Maybe that £900 didn't feel like anything, because literally the day before they spent £3,952.76 in Pollyanna Restaurant. Now, Pollyanna Restaurant, I remember seeing a few different people on Twitter trying to search and find Pollyanna Restaurant, and it seems that it's actually a restaurant in Poland, allegedly. So I don't know the circumstances around that, but what we do know is that almost £4,000 was spent at a restaurant on the 26th of February, again, using public funds.
And that's, remember, when you go to Poland, it's euros, unless you use their local currency. So, and no disrespect to Poland, but Poland's quite cheap. So, I went there for a week and spent £100. So, what? Oh man, like, guys, I think there's a trend here, isn't it? We're mugs, literally.
And I think it's just going to get worse and worse as we go through the rest of this list, because I'm seeing.
It does.
It's making me feel quite ill, sicker than I already feel as well. So, and again, literally, Bob's was just stuttering and lost for words for a second there, and I have to completely echo that sentiment, because I cannot believe what must be going on for. And even if you have the entire Home Office out for a meal, like, we've all been on staff dinners, right? We've all been on staff. The bill has never, and when I'm talking staff dinners, I'm talking like a group of like 20, 30 of us sometimes out there, like, and it's like a semi-decent restaurant, you know what I mean? It's not, in the slums. It's not like one of those elite restaurants either, because we'd never be able to afford that either. So, but never ever has the bill ever got that. It's never even, I think, at best 200 or something like that. £200.
But Lambs, let's be honest, yeah.
For 20, 30 people, £4,000 in a restaurant. That's not even in the UK. So you're just sitting here, just trying to put the pieces together, and it's still not making sense that public money was used. Yeah, I'm confused.
Guys, when you go in a restaurant, right? Sorry, Linda. When you go in a restaurant and there's 10 of you, say 10, and the bill comes to some figure, everyone's like, yo, what did everyone eat? Real talk, because you're even like, do you know what I'm trying to say to you? So like, because I'm thinking, when I went to work dinners, like Lambs was saying, right? I've been like, Bob's, man, like, looking at the menu, bro, you've only came here with £30. Just respect yourself. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? Like, I'm trying to catch the last train home. So when the bill comes in and it's like a ridiculous amount, like 5, 6, I'm like, yo, put your hand up. What did you eat? I'm like I'm like that with a receipt. I did not eat that. I did not drink that. And I'll put my money forward. So when these people are just swiping their card for that amount of money, what are you ordering? This is not even Salt Bay. Like, what's going on?
Not Salt Bay. What I find interesting, I'm going to skip a few of these. What I find interesting is, well, not only did they spend nearly $4,000 in on the 26th of February, but they went back to Pollyanna Restaurant on the 12th of March. So we're talking, what, 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
And they dropped again £3,774.29. So about £200 less almost than the first time round. So maybe a couple of colleagues were missing from this.
Yeah,
They were ill. They
No,
missed the night out.
It was a different dessert on show and they didn't fancy it, probably.
Yeah,
Like that,
you're right. You know, maybe a few couple bottles of wine less, I think, were ordered that time around, whatever. But yeah, let's just go through these other ones. So now we're in the month of March. 77,269 pounds and 40 pence spent at SP Beautiful Brows. Now, this company appears to be run by Global Beauty Products, is the note on this list here. There's been a lot of chatter about this because there was a further £30,000 that was spent by the same limited company in April, the 6th of April, £30,000 spent at Global Beauty Products Limited. Now, they're mainly known for the whole brows and lashes thing, but they do also appear to sell PPE, personal protective equipment. And that was the one that got the pushback from the Home Office on Twitter. So the Home Office actually on the official account made a point to be like, guys, you know, we spent this money on PPE. We don't regret protecting our staff. So this was clearly on PPE. What do you guys think? So what, over £100,000 on PPE from a brow company?
I just don't understand why it's not going through normal procurement. That's the big issue, is why is it not going through normal procurement, which is available for people like the public to request, so you can see what it is, and then you can see your price points, why you've picked this company instead of other companies. Because this doesn't give you how much you actually been charged and what for. This is just it's just insulting at the end of the day. For all of it, it's why aren't they going through normal procurement things? The Primark one.
Yeah, I'll come back to that one because that's the other one that they actually went out the window for on Twitter, in addition to the PPE. But you're right. Why aren't these going through the normal channels? Why don't we have an itemized list of the PPE that you bought? Why is it being spent on a procurement card, which is an expenses card, basically? That's what it is for the Home Office. And it's for little expenses that can occur that are eligible to be spent on that card, that can happen every so often. It is not for over £100,000 on two separate occasions over a couple of months for PPE from a brow company. That doesn't make any sense. Also, I know that there's been a lot of Twitter investigators, shout out to the Twitter investigators, who have been going through all the limited companies, going through and looking at all of the directors, seeing any names that pop up a lot. There's a couple names that pop up a lot. One is, I believe, Barbara Khan is her name. And she's a director of thousands of companies, including a few of the ones that appear on this list. So it's quite interesting, the money that is being spent with the same people and the same companies, just, allegedly. But it's quite interesting when you start to look into what these companies have in common. Going back to March again, so you had, over £1,000 at the Folkestone Garden Centre. Again, why public funds? £919 at Entertainment EB. Don't know what that is. Don't know why it costs that much. Don't know why we're paying for it. You got over £2,000 at Neptune Couture Tirani, which appears to be an electronics store in Albania. Again, what are we paying for why are we buying it, and why is it on an expenses card? Why is there no itemized list? Why is it not going through, as Mike said, the proper channels? Then you've got Hair There and Everywhere, £864. This is in April. which appears to be a regular hairdressing salon, £849.50 in Sports Direct. Why are we paying for your trackies? I don't understand. I'm going to skip that one, so I'll come back to it. And then £669 Rachel's Kitchen Limited, and it's a firm that owns Rachel's Cupcakes, which is the brand that it trades under. So we're paying for cupcakes now as well. Okay, well, it was December, very near Christmas. Maybe they had an office party and they felt like, you know what, this should be on the expenses. I actually don't care about that £669 one. I really don't. It's a lot for cupcakes, but I don't care about it. It might have been a very big company-wide party, and I think that that's fair. That's a fair expenses charge, in my opinion. £5,415.90 in Primark. That's the one that really pissed me off, even before the tweet from Home Office. I'm going to stop sharing now because we've seen the list. That's the one that really irritated me personally, because first of all, $5,500 in Primark, you might as well have bought shares. Primark is so cheap. Primark is so cheap. $5,500. What did you buy? Did you buy the Marble Arch Primark store? What did you buy for that money? And why is it that it's on public funds? Why are we paying for it? And then the Home Office had the cheek to be like, we buy clothes for refugees, because oftentimes when they arrive, they don't have suitable clothing for our weather. So I'm assuming that you guys all saw that the Home Office now is moving like a charity. Apparently they're buying clothes for refugees when they arrive. Is this something that you expected? Because I didn't know they were that generous.
I mean, this is the same Home Office who are doing their best to deny access to refugees, have been trying to deny them access for a very long time, won't even provide aid to the current citizens of their country who've probably fallen on hard times, the current citizens who used to pay them tax, who have fallen on hard times, who, like I mentioned earlier, are the ones who are queuing outside these food banks. Where's the aid for them? And literally, just because we know of their the track history that this country has, their attitude towards refugees, do you actually sincerely believe that? Because I don't.
No, I saw the tweet from the Home Office, and then the first response was from a literal refugee charity saying that's weird, because we literally get these people coming to us saying we've got no clothes, can you help clothe us, because the Home Office won't give us clothes. And again, even if it was the Home Office buying clothes for refugees or asylum seekers or whatever, why is it not been done through the correct procurement? Even if it was, it was an emergency and we needed to drop 5Gs on clothes, that's how much of an emergency it was, you'd still go through the correct channels. Nothing's that much of an emergency. You've got a credit card and walk around the shop and clean the whole fucking shop out. It makes no sense, procurement wise. If there's anything I would say every government has probably got their own procurement things because of this type of corruption. It's there to stop that. Was it the French Prime Minister what got nicked for what you was talking about yesterday, Linda?
Former French President Nicolas Sarkozy.
Yeah. What was he nicked for?
Corruption.
So
misuse of public funds is one of the things. It's a long list of things. There's a lot of stuff he didn't.
That's what I'm saying. It's
corruption.
It's there to stop that, and so when it's not followed, what is everyone else supposed to think? Because you can't defend it on Twitter and going, "Oh no, we did it to buy this." No, you didn't. Prove it. You can't, because you've not followed the law, and then you've just wasted money.
Mm-hmm. And it makes them look even worse when they're sitting there, when they're putting out statements like that. And like you said, there's people who are in those situations, who have been in those situations, or companies or organizations and charities who've been dealing with these refugees, who can discredit exactly that, because they're saying, what? This is news to us, because if you guys were so kind-hearted and generous like you claim you are, why do we constantly have all of these people coming towards us? Why can, like, if we could actually like bring this, you know, as a case, present it as a case, they wouldn't really, they would fall on their own sword, because you have these organizations, these charities that can testify to that not being the case. You also have the actual refugees who can testify to that not being the case either. So it's quite stupid to kind of, like you said, put yourself in this position, because like you said, if it genuinely was through that, if it genuinely was for that reason, like you said, Mike, you'd follow the proper channels, because you wouldn't want this falling back on you and having people questioning you like this. But we are, because again, we know. And going through that list, what the common trend I see with all of these companies, like 77 grand spent at a brow companies. I mean, I don't know what equipment, whatever you're procuring, all of these sound like personal costs. It literally just sounds like, you know, we want to do this, we want to do that, we don't want to pay for it. The public are going to pay for it. The struggling public who are going through hell in this pandemic.
We have to also remember that we currently have a Tory government, as we've had for over a decade. And these are the same Tories that tell us there's no magic money tree when we ask for pay rises for NHS staff. They tell us that nurses don't know. Why? Why should we give them a pay rise? Meanwhile, MPs are still getting pay rises, even in the midst of the pandemic. So much has still been going on. There's money for it. There's money that's being spent. It's just not being spent on the benefit of the people, which is where it's supposed to be spent.
100%.
Talking about the people, let's add Nuruddin onto the screen. He's currently out protesting.
Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Kill the bill! Hello, everybody. How are we doing?
Not too bad. How are you?
Mr. Structure, how you doing?
Really well. We're taking over the street, people. We're taking over the street. We've just been to the court to let the people know we will never, never, never succumb to end that bill that's passed, that's going to stop from people in Manchester protesting. So solidarity with you, all of you that guys there, and solidarity with everybody who's marching in Manchester. This is where we are right now. We're near Deansgate. And I just wanted to say, just to pop in and just say that this bill will be defeated, because we believe in people power. People is about the people, and we believe in people power. And we need a lot more people to stand up and show solidarity, especially to the Roma, traveler, gypsy communities, to show, because there is always the way. They will always come for the most marginalized people in that society. And until this famous poem goes, they came for the socialists, they came for the communists, then they came for me, because there was nobody else that they can come for. So I want to pop out again, because I need to be doing the chants. Peace, love, light. Bobby, good to see you, brother. Good to see you, all of you guys. Subscribe to the channel, and hopefully next time I'll be in my comfort of my own home, hopefully when we do the other one, and I can spouse my leftist propaganda.
Amazing. Stay safe out there. Be safe.
Love.
Sarcasm City. Sarcasm City. Subscribe, share. Peace, people. It's a message from Manchester.
Amazing.
See you later, mate.
Stay safe. See you later. All right.
Wow.
So he's saying that next time he'll be in the comfort of his own home, but I reckon there'll be another protest that he is at, because he does not quit. He does not play when it comes to the belief in the people and the power of the people, which is amazing. So, because as we've seen, the government will just say all types of things and do all types of things, and then look you in your face and basically say that you're crazy for arguing against it. We talked about the Home Office, where they actually, put out put out a tweet, put a couple of tweets about fact check. It's wrong to claim that blah, 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 blah. I'm not reading all that. But what they said specifically about Primark was the spending in Primark was for asylum seekers who would have not had appropriate clothing when arriving in the UK. We are committed to delivering the best value for money for the British taxpayer, making sure every pound is spent in the most effective way. So it was actually West London Welcome that did the tweet that I think we were referring to earlier, Mike. Even though there have been several people who have pushed back against it, several organizations and charities that have pushed back against it, but this was the main one that I saw first anyway. And West London Welcome said, since the day we opened in 2018, we've never met an asylum-seeking person who has been given clothes by the Home Office. That's why we run a clothes bank twice a week. We and other charities clothe hundreds of newly arrived adults and children who would otherwise have nothing. They go on to speak about several other spending issues that there have been. So they go on to say, as at Colin Yeo1 pointed out this week, asylum numbers are at historical low levels. The Home Office is paying subcontractor Clear Springs £1 billion over 10 years to run asylum accommodation and support. They can absolutely afford to clothe people. They actively choose not to. And I think it's really, really important when you do get pushback like that, when you do get charity speaking up and people protesting and people doing what they need to do to make sure that the masses understand when they're being lied to and when they're being manipulated. It was crazy. I mean, the Home Office picked those particular ones, the Primark and the Browse ones. But there were so many on there that should have never been on there anyway. So for them to have chosen those two was just interesting to me. I get the Browse one because that was the most accumulative spend, but they didn't talk about the thousands of pounds being spent at restaurants and pubs and for entertainment and Sports Direct and all this kind of stuff. There was no mention of those, no pushing back on those. But apparently the British taxpayer is getting the best value for money. I'm a British taxpayer and I'm going to say bollocks. I'm absolutely not getting the best value for my money, and I never have been since I started paying tax at 16. I haven't.
100%. I echo
pretty much down that.
I echo. I agree with every word you said. 100%.
Well, speaking of the government, oh God, I don't even want to do this one. I just don't. I don't even want to do it because I can feel my blood pressure raising already. The gaslighting in this country is, as I mentioned on the Talk About It Network Live last night, truly impressive. If it wasn't so dangerous and so harmful, I would just be in awe of it. I would be like, wow, this is incredible, because it's so uniquely aggressive and violent, the way that this country gaslights the people that it continues to abuse and mistreat. It is truly amazing. Last year, obviously, during lockdown, Black Lives Matter protests had erupted all over the world, including here in the UK. In response, a lot of government officials around the world were, trying to make a point of saying that they understand what we're saying, they understand what the people are saying, and they will do better, and they will implement X, Y, and Z to address the issues that the protests have brought about. And that was no different in this country. We had Boris Johnson saying, you know what, I am going to set up a commission. This commission will be a commission on race and ethnic disparities. It's going to be, CRED as an acronym, CRED. I like to call it CRUD, because the person that he chose to head up CRUD is Tom Sewell, who is very well known for saying that he doesn't believe that institutional and structural racism exists in this country, even before CRED was set up. So for me, I'm like, so you got somebody to chair a commission that's going to investigate how institutional racism has impacted this country, but you've chosen somebody who doesn't even believe it exists. So of course, cut to March, when they go, okay, we're going to put this report out on all these findings. We've spoken to scientists and experts and socioeconomic, experts in the field and researchers and key workers and all of this stuff. We've looked at everything, and this is what we found. There is no evidence of institutional racism in this country.
Do you know? I mean, does anyone want to go before me? Because I've got so much to say. So basically, there's no institutional racism. Okay, so Why have we never had any black prime ministers? Why have we never had any black women in power, senior power? Why doesn't Boris Johnson acknowledge the black people when he done a speech? He shook the white people's hand, and he just didn't acknowledge the black people. Why is it the NHS? The government came out with this report that COVID affects black people, the BAME community, the Asians. Everything in this world, in this country, with this government, is set up to fail us. It's set up so we can fail. And I'm going to go honest here, and I'll say this. I'm 31 years of age, okay? The system is set up for you to fail. They don't like you. You speak normal. You pronounce your I's, your T's. They say, oh, you speak eloquent. You're a very eloquent speaker. Sorry? Don't insult me. Listen, look, Linda, from what you've said, yeah, and also we all saw it's damning. It's a joke. We saw, God may rest in peace, we saw a man die on TV, by social media. And the person that killed him is being trialed. When you go to trial, for people that don't know, when you go to trial, there has to be enough evidence, okay, to cause doubt that the person is not guilty. So there has to be evidence to cause doubt, guys. We all saw what the guy done, okay? But coming back to the government, guys, why is it that if there's not institutional racism, why is it when we go to certain neighborhoods in London, why is it the ethnic people that living in these poor places? Why are we the cleaners? Why are we the security guards? Why are we never the team managers, the team leaders? The system's set up for you to fail. And the sooner we, as a group of adults, admit that, your life will be a lot more easier, stressful-wise. Because that's like basically saying to me, that's like Mike saying to me, Bobby, I want to talk about racism. I'm going to chair the group. But after he invites whoever, like ourselves, then he says, do you know what? I'm just going to go out there. There's no racism here. I can tell you that. Mike can't say something like that. Mike's never been racially abused, racially profiled, racially victimized, whatever. And this is just on a higher level what the guy's done. He's like, yeah, I don't believe in it. And it's that generation that see no evil, hear no evil. If you don't see it, you don't hear it. So, I mean, guys, someone please jump in, because I could rap about this all day. Literally. It's do you know what? It's not even, you know when they say the phrase, it's a slap in the mouth. This is not a thought. I feel like they've spat in our faces. You know, to say, keep complaining. You know, all the black people that go missing, all the black people that get murdered, the Asians, we don't talk about the conversations where the youths harass these corner shops, the mini supermarkets. They harass the Asians, the Southeast Asians, Thais and stuff. We've seen Chinese people right now being harassed. But there's no racism. So what? So why don't they like them then? What's the reason of that? You know.
Well, just to be clear, the report doesn't say that there isn't any racism. They actually go further to say that there is clear evidence of racism in terms of among people. But what they're saying, there isn't any institutional racism, which is still bollocks. To be clear, still bollocks. But I'm saying that they're acknowledging that racism exists by putting it back to people and saying, oh, it's just a hearts and minds thing. I mean, it's not structural. It's not the system. It's nothing that we can do. It's just some people don't like other people, and that's what it is.
Who writes this?
And
according to this report, the only time there's been institutional like racism is under Corbyn's Labour, and that's it. And as soon as he's gone, oh look, there's definitely none now. Like, it's wild. How can you gaslight everyone? And literally, you kicked off about it constantly in the Labour Party, and now you're saying no, it doesn't go past them. Think about how stupid you have to be to accept that.
in that situation, Jeremy Corbyn was definitely used as a scapegoat, for that situation. He was scapegoated in the finest way. way.
And that's what I was saying is they've managed to use like the right-wing media and the Tory government have been able to use institutional racism or anti-Semitism to their power, which is incredible when you think about it. How have they been able to say, "Oh no, it doesn't exist there, but it definitely exists there"? But we run this shit. We've run this shit for 11 years so far, like straight. But it's only in the places where you don't hold power, where you have to worry about it. Fuck off, get in the bin, pricks.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And do you know the funny thing about that situation, isn't it? When the way they've dismissed stuff and said, yeah, it's, you know, as Linda said, it's in the hearts, our minds in the hearts and stuff.
I know exactly what Linda means by that statement. Sit on it and spin, yes.
Yeah, literally.
Hell yeah.
and like, guys, like, you know that this is just going to be a file that they'll just put on the shelf now. Or we've dealt with that matter. What's really important, and it as a parent, it scares me, really scares me, because, you know, the conversations I was given as a young boy, I'm gonna have to give that to my son, and you know, it's factual. There's many black boys and girls who'll be getting this conversation. And do you know what? Let me just say to you, like, what people are watching. The conversation is this: you are going to go into an institution that doesn't like you, that's set up for you to fail. You not only have to work twice as hard to be even acknowledged, but to even be applauded, and that is not even a guarantee. Do you know? And when that came out, I just thought, God, like, is it that deep that you guys really, really just don't like us? When I say us, I'm talking
all of us.
Yeah, all of us, literally. Because let's be honest, they hate white people too. If you're not, if you don't have money and you don't tax it, they don't like you.
Do you know what's so interesting is that the working class whites are hated just as much, but they're beneficial. They're more beneficial than the rest of us because they will continue to help them stay in power. They'll continue to help them hoard wealth and hoard power, because that's if we talk back in transatlantic slavery days, that's the house Negro. Yep. Working class white people are the house Negroes. They're useful. Yes. So they get a little bit, tiny bit more than we do. But they still hate you. You're still a service to them. You're still a servant of theirs. But I want to kind of go through what institutional racism is, because I don't want to keep using terms and people kind of hear the same terms and not realize what they truly mean. So before I do that, though, I just want to make a very, very clear point that our current Prime Minister, who said that these black children were pickaninnies with watermelon smiles, created a commission on race and ethnic disparities, and it's chaired by somebody who does not believe in institutional and structural racism in Britain. And then that's where this report came from. So I just want to make that very, very clear. That's how this was set up. That's where we started, okay? And then I'm going to explain what institutional racism is. So the dictionary definition of institutional racism is discrimination or unequal treatment on the basis of membership of a particular ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized, arising from systems, structures, or expectations that have become established within an institution or organization. So systems and structures, well, if we look at just where the report came from, that's a structure, right? Mm-hmm. It's a commission. It's a government commission, right? A government sanctioned commission. I'd say that's a structure. Yep. And I'd also say it's very much a system because it was created by our current Prime Minister, the chief leader of the country. System, structure, well, tick and tick. So if we just look at the comments that they've made, that would be enough. We don't even need other examples. We don't even need to look at policing. We don't even need to look at the NHS. We don't even need to look at schooling. We don't have to look at anything else. That was an example in itself. How the commission even came about in the first place was evidence of institutional racism in Britain. And therefore, this report makes even less sense.
And you can clearly see that. And like, thank you so much for breaking down and clarifying that definition as well, because that is a question that a lot of people do tend to ask as well. And I do remember even back in the day when I was in secondary school and given a presentation, we were talking about it as like a citizenship project. And I think one of the first things we had to define in the presentation was what is institutional racism, because all of these people, my fellow peers, my fellow like 15, 16-year-olds, didn't even know what it was. And most of them are from ethnic minorities. And you can just see, you can literally just see it because up until that point, up until I'm about 15, 16, I can see the representation in the media. You can even see some of the news reporters, the newscasters, the journalists, the people reporting on stories. You won't get a job if you have a certain type of accent, if you speak in a certain type of way, right? There's even some UK accents that are frowned. You never see somebody with a Mancunian accent, a Scottish accent, Irish accent, sitting here presenting the news on BBC, ITV, on all of that. And it goes to show, because of the structure that they want to represent, the message that they want to send out to the public in these positions of power. Again, you can see the representation. What is it? It's mostly white men. So again, because it represents their interests. So for somebody to sit here and say that there is no evidence of it, it's one of the most outlandish statements, because the history and trail of institutional racism can go back hundreds, if not thousands of years.
I would say they've also forgot quite clearly about a massive report what was out only a couple of years ago called the Windrush Report. Like, if it doesn't show like blatant institutional racism, I don't know what can show you that. I don't know if you'll ever see the light of day. Like, honestly, your head's that far like in the sand that you're not willing.
I think we have to start lynching our work colleagues, apparently, for there to be evidence. It has to maybe get to that point. And even so, there'll probably be an excuse. And again, I want to echo what Bob said about the trial. Like, the fact that we all, millions and possibly billions of people worldwide, actually saw this happen. It was on video camera. It was on multiple video cameras from all different angles, close up. Like, what more evidence do you need? And there's about 3 charges. And as I'm watching this trial, and the reason why I want to watch this trial again is because I know what the outcome is going to be, but I still want to document. I still want to take note of what's happening, how it's going. So when they do reach the verdict that they're going to reach, the manslaughter charge will stick, not the 2nd degree or the 3rd degree murder charges. That's not going to stick. The manslaughter one will stick. The guy will probably get maximum 3 to 5 years in prison. He'll be out in 2 with good behavior. But again, the reason why I'm watching this trial anyway and taking note is because, as hard as it is, I need to see for myself how the clear evidence of the institutional racism, the fact that there is no such thing as justice, and especially we're sitting here talking about the cracks and the flaws of the systems in this country. It's 100 times worse over there. So I can imagine how painful it must be sitting there watching the outcome of this trial, listening to the defense attorney and some of the questions, because essentially the defense's narrative is that they were prevented from fully focusing on the care of George Floyd once they had him in their custody because of the, and I quote, the imminent threat of the amassing mob that was taking place at that time.
Well, I just want to make a point to say that that's the only defense that they could have, because the only way that a killing by a police officer can be lawful is if there is imminent threat, if there is an imminent threat to either the police officer's life or the lives of innocent passerbys as well. So if there is an imminent threat to the lives of the people around, including their own, then that's the only time that it's actually lawful for them to kill somebody. And because it was on camera, they know that George Floyd posed no actual threat. There's no way they could ever argue that George Floyd, in that position as he was dying, posed any actual threat to Derek Chauvin. So what they have to do is say that the people around them, including the 17-year-old girl that filmed it, were the ones that were causing the imminent threat and therefore distracting Derek Chauvin from the fact that he was killing somebody with his knee. Now, I don't know about you. I've never killed anybody, but I imagine that if I was about to kill somebody with my knee because my knee was on their neck, I would know. There's nothing that could distract me from the fact that I'm taking somebody's life and they're begging me for their life right now. There's nothing that can distract you from that. There is nothing.
The worst thing about rewatching this trial, watching this trial and rewatching different parts, different clips, angles of the different videos, the CCTV, like all the evidence that they have and the exhibits that they're showing, is that in his when the pleading was happening, when he was pleading, when everybody else was pleading as well, what I saw in his eyes, like it just spoke to me. I could just see like the generational hate shine through, that there was nothing there. There was absolutely nothing there. And everybody could have been on their knees begging and pleading and he wouldn't have heard them at all. And you can see it from the fact that even when the paramedics came, they had to shift, they had to push him off because when they were trying to check his pulse, he was still on him. And it's so, like, you can see it clearly, the hate that was radiating through his eyes, through his face. Like that one shot that they showed in his eyes where it looked soulless, like there was nothing there. Like that spoke to me as, I don't like you, I don't like your people, I don't like the fact that you are in my country.
The audacity to be here right now.
Yes.
And I think that people have been convicted of murder one on a lot less. Murder one requires premeditation, and premeditation can be proven after the fact. Motive can be proven after the fact.
In jail. They're innocent. They're innocent.
No, I mean, even in terms of victim related, murder one is very victim related. It has to be related to that victim, right? So the attacker, the murderer, or the person being accused of murder, or particularly murder one, has to have that relationship with the victim in the sense of the premeditation can't be on a hate crime level. That's an additional, that's an added, right, when it comes to sentencing. But when they're actually talking about convicting for murder one, what they go for is evidence of premeditation, evidence of your motive. And even if they can't prove it ahead of time, it can be proven on your post actions, on your actions then and post. That can go to what was in your mind. That's how they prove it. People have been convicted on murder one with less evidence, and this man will walk. That is my prediction. It's not what I'm manifesting. It's not what I'm hoping for. But I know that country very well. I know that country's politics very well. I studied it. I looked at it. I looked at everything that they've done, and history tells me that they will just, the public outcry is the only thing that made them charge this man with what they charged him. He would have had paid leave, and if that video wasn't there, he would have had paid leave at most.
Yeah, administration. Let's be honest.
That's
They'll put him behind the desk, and they probably would have, listen. It probably after 6 months he would have been on patrol again. Let's be honest.
I mean, and that's what happens, and that's what when we talk about gaslighting as well. That's what we mean. It's the look at this clear evidence. That trial should have been, a trial has to happen. That's the law. It's the Constitution. But what it should have been was a guilty plea at the start, because the defense attorney should have been like, there's nothing for me to argue. There's nothing for me to argue. You need to plead guilty. That's what it should have been, right? The charges should have actually matched what had happened in the first place, but that was probably wishful thinking. Should have been showing the jury and the judge the evidence, laying it out, and going to a decision. It should have literally been that simple, because there is nothing to argue. There's nothing to argue there. We all saw it.
Boy, the reason that there is nothing to argue, but you know what we see and a lot of people see too. You know, we all saw what happened with George. People were saying he was a criminal, he was this, he was that. No one ever said he's a human being. You know, why was his knee on his neck though? Answer that question. Like, is that how you're taught to restrain people? Like, you know, and people. I saw all the. I mean, I think, to be honest, I hope he celebrated George Floyd, because he has shook the whole world up now to basically saying that, by the way, there's racism everywhere. He's also brought confidence to races, communities, to be like, enough is enough, you know. And we asked the question, you know, why do you hate us? We asked the question, why do you think this is appropriate? And then we asked the question, why are you debating racism? Like, we created it. You're like, we created.
And you know what?
Why do you keep asking us? Why?
You know what's crazy, Bobs? You know what you were saying earlier about that conversation that you're going to have with your son and in your house. There's so many households, like Linda, Bob's, me. We've had to have those conversations. Like our parents, grandparents, like elders, have had to have those conversations with us. They've had to tell us, "Hey, look, I know you don't see it now because you're a child, and you know all of your friends, they're the same age as you. All think you're the same, and quite rightly, they all should think that they're equally the same. But their white friend in school, when they go home, their parents are never going to have that conversation doesn't exist in that household. And there's so many households where that conversation will never exist. So they'll never have to have that conversation. That child will never have to grow up knowing about these so-called pressures, knowing that these institutions, these systems, these structures are put in place for a reason, because at the end of the day, they never needed to have that conversation, because those systems and structures were put in place for them to succeed. So their parents will just be like, go on, the world is your oyster. And it really is. And it really is. So I really understand that. And that's exactly my point, because they've never had to have those conversations. They will never understand. So it's really crazy. Again, it kind of brings me back a different point, but it's almost kind of like when men speak about abortion and whether it should be allowed, you have no right, because you're not a woman. You've never experienced the pressures of what it's like to have an unwanted pregnancy, or the effects that it has on you, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, everything. Like, it's literally life-changing. You don't experience that, so you have no right to speak about what women can do with their bodies. It's the same thing here. You don't experience what these people have to go through, so you have no right to decide what does and what doesn't exist, because you haven't experienced it yourself.
And I think that's such a great point, because what we want to make sure that we're doing is that we're saying, if it's not something that you can relate to, it's not that you're not involved in the conversation, it's that you're not the decider of what happens to the things that don't affect you, that could never affect you. Just using that example of abortion as the kind of guide for it. But I think it's very, very important that these conversations are had with everyone, though, because then you can, hopefully that will elicit some empathy, especially when they're young, that will elicit some empathy as they get older and kind of relate to people that are different to them because of the different types of experiences that they will have. It's definitely important to have the conversations irrespective of what your household is, but it's tough because there's no incentive for parents who know their children will never experience this. There's no incentive for them to do that. It's almost as if they'd have to go out of their way to have these discussions with children to make sure that their children understand that their peers are going to struggle through life, are probably already struggling now at school, and that you need to be there for them as best as you can if you're saying that you want them, you want to be their friend.
But why would they? Because
why would they?
That their kid is literally already 10 steps closer on the road to success than they already know that. So there's no need for them to have that incentive to want to have that conversation, because they don't care about us.
Exactly. And maybe the way of, because I know a lot of people tend to only really have empathy when they see it affect them and their loved ones, but maybe a way of combating that is to kind of make it clear that yes, your child is likely to be way more successful than mine, because of the way the system is set up. But even then, it will still only be for as much success as the powers that be will allow. There's still a limit. It's just higher than my kids, right? It's still a limit though, because they want to keep that wealth and that power within a small circle, and you're not in that circle either. You just have a little bit more privilege than I do. So how about we tear down the system in itself and just have an equal playing field, so that every kid can be told by their parents and it be true that they can do anything and that the world is their oyster. Because right now that's not true for any of us, but it's a lot less true for us, the minorities that live in these countries. But I just want to push back because, this report, the CRUD report, as I'm now calling it, is a 258-page report. As I mentioned, they say that that institutional racism doesn't exist, but that they, as I mentioned, they acknowledge other forms of racism. They want to kind of make it very clear that it's other factors that are leading to this, right? The main takeaways, by the way, there's a link in the description to the PDF for anyone who's watching this that wants to see and read the report for themselves. Highly encourage it. Have a look and see for yourself. Don't just take everyone else's word for it. Read the word yourself. The report claimed that the term structural racism was too liberally used, and factors such as socioeconomic background, culture, and religion had a much more significant impact on life chances. And that's the thing that is impressive about the way this country gaslights us. It's because they use a little bit of fact, but they skew it to fit their narrative. That is factual. Yes, socioeconomic backgrounds, culture, all of those things do 100% affect, the type of situations that you will be in, how successful you be, crime rates, etc. And that is why it's an institutional thing.
Yes.
Because they will purposely put you in terrible socioeconomic situations so that crime does go up in your neighborhoods and not theirs, so that you are forced to work the low-paying job that nobody wants to do but that will make them billionaires, so that you are being policed more harshly and kept in line and kept in check, so that they can continue to keep hold of the money and power in this country. You're right. It is the social
like areas that used to look a certain type of way, now attracting different kind of personnel. And you can see it in the construction of these new apartment buildings and blocks that only a certain demographic can afford. You can see it around you. Just step outside, go for a 10, 15 minute, 20-minute walk. You will see it happening around you.
And it's amazing because, like I say, they use these examples as if that's not what we're saying. We're saying it's socioeconomic issues that are causing a lot of these problems. What we're saying is that these institutions and the systems in this country are set up in a way to put people, specific people, based on how they look and how they pray, they stick those particular people in those terrible, dire situations. That's what institutional racism is. It's a system that is designed for certain people to fail. And the system is what you're talking about, the symptom. We're talking about the virus. You're talking about the cough. We're talking about COVID. And you're denying COVID while talking about the cough? Do you understand how insane that is? You're saying, yes, there are people coughing all over the place. It's mad. Anyway, we're saying there's COVID. No, there's no evidence of COVID, but people are coughing all over the place. No, COVID. No, there's just coughing. And you're like, that's what I'm saying. If it wasn't so harmful, this is genius. It would be impressive. It's amazing how they can gaslight the fuck out of you until you go, I give up. Like, I'm tired. I give up. I'm stressed. I'm tired. My anxiety is through the roof. My blood pressure is through the roof. It's not even worth me arguing this. Go ahead. Do what you want.
It's so draining when you can see that you're fighting. You can see that you're fighting a lost cause. It's almost kind of like if you're falsely accused of something, like please turn up because you fit a description and you're standing And they always do it in the most humiliating, publicly embarrassing situations. And then they'll just be there kind of like making you out to be this certain type of like evil person surrounded by your friends, families, possibly work colleagues, if they want to, you know, turn up to your work or turn up to like a situation where you're surrounded by people, like to really embarrass you, right? And then they'll even though you know it's not you, like you can't just sit there, you can't be defensive, like you can't, you just have to sit there and just let it happen. And it's
soul destroying.
Yeah, it's straight, because you're just like, you're looking around, you know, it's almost like when you're at war, like you're assessing your options. Do I have a chance? Can I talk my way out of this? Can I run? Can I fight? Can I actually? And you're like, even if you do all of those things, you're not going to stand a chance, either or. Whatever option you pick, you've already lost.
Right.
Because it turns up to you, you've already lost. And I think that's what's so depressing, that's so draining to people, because that's how they get you. They literally just keep on going on and on and on at you until you're like, okay, fine, I'll wave the white flag, you win. Do whatever you want, because I just don't have the strength to fight you back anymore.
And it's like every single movie that you've ever seen, every single program that you've ever seen that's about questioning people and torture. That's how torture works. It's torture. It's literally torture. It is battering you and battering you until you give in. We're literally experiencing a light version of like Gitmo torture every day. Every day you're being told what you see, feel, hear, and experience is a lie. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's not what it is. It's constant and it is exhausting. And because we live in an age of information, we see so much more, we're connected so much more with each other. It also means that, yes, it's good that a lot of things are being brought to light and we're seeing a lot more so that we can hold more people accountable where possible. But it also means that you're exposed to it so much more. There's just so much trauma right now that we're all exposed to. We feel like we're desensitized to a lot of stuff, but the brain only can do so much, right? We might tell ourselves that, but when you look at mental health at the moment and how people are being affected, there has to be a correlation with just how much trauma we are exposed to every single day. Rates of PTSD, undiagnosed PTSD, and anxiety and depression, and there's constant stress. I mean, just with the pandemic alone, there were signs of people having a lot more cortisol flowing through their body, you know, the stress hormone constantly being released by your body. And that was from just the pandemic. Now add in all these other factors and the constant trauma and stress every day and the constant gaslighting. This was the last thing that we needed. This report was the last thing that we needed at the end of the month. Like, it was just not... Anyway, I just wanted to go on to, because we mentioned about structures and systems and evidence of institutional racism and how it works. I really just wanted to quickly talk about, before we move on, to Greater Manchester Police. Nuruddin was talking about Kill the Bill and everything like that. But I also do want to just kind of, I don't want this to go under the radar. I really, really don't want this to go under the radar. Greater Manchester Police's taser usage has increased a lot in the past few years. I just want to read from an article by the Resistance Lab Network. So it starts off by saying, despite claims to the contrary, taser usage by Greater Manchester Police has risen to its highest ever level. Greater Manchester Police are now using tasers more often than ever before, according to new Home Office data, which shows the highest use of the weapon in England and Wales on record. Infographics published by GMP on their website and circulated to community groups indicated that their taser use was declining. However, this is directly contradicted by data reported by GMP to the Home Office. One thing to us, one thing to the Home Office, right? So tasers are being used more than double the rate claimed in these infographics for the same period. So April 2019 to March 2020 period is what we were looking at. So the Home Office data showed that GMP's taser usage has actually increased a further 7%, and it's now at its highest ever level. Racial disproportionalities have widened, with Black people now more than 5 times more likely to be subject of a use of force incident involving a taser than white people. Now, unless Black people make up 5 times more of the population than white people in this country, which we absolutely do not, that disparity makes absolutely no sense outside of institutional racism. Okay. I'll continue by saying that this was also equally very, very disturbing. Use against children has also increased from 118 to 132 incidents. So the year before, for that same period, there were 118. April 2019 to March 2020 went up to 132 incidents. Look, there's been a lot of stuff. There's going to be a report that's going to come out this month of April, from GMP addressing these. I know that Andy Burnham has requested to see figures on what's been going on since, what's been happening since the pandemic started. We want to see those figures. But I just want people to, I don't even know what I want people to do. I want people to think for themselves. I want people to help hold these people accountable. A link to this article, by the way, in the description.
Yeah,
your research, man. Read up. I know it's not super interesting all the time, especially if you're not particularly interested in politics, but this is stuff that's affecting you, your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors, the people around you, your colleagues. It's bad. It is bad out here right now. And it's really, really important now more than ever, now that we have the privilege of access to so much information, that we do something with it if we can. So before we move on to the next segment, since we're on the topic of racism, should we quickly just discuss Stephen Lawrence Day? Lambs, do you want to have a little chat with us about that?
You know, whilst we're in the talking about, you know, in the trend of talking about racism, social injustice, this is just another perfect example of just how hate unchecked can be fatal. Bob's was saying about the difficult conversation that you have to have with your children in the household, you know, and even when you have these conversations, there's danger everywhere, and you can't escape from danger like this. And unfortunately, for Stephen Lawrence, for his mother, Doreen, and a lovely woman who I actually met and interviewed when I was 15 years old with another friend of mine, because we were basing our project around this case, because obviously it's something that we're both very, very passionate about. And, you know, something, you know, I've always exercised activism and speaking about these things from a very, very young age. I've always wanted to make a difference. And unfortunately, this guy was with his friend at a bus stop going home. Stephen Lawrence with his friend managed to get away unhurt, but they were targeted as part of a racially profiled attack. And to this day, I think we still don't even really know who did it, do we? Which just basically says everything you need to know about racism, social injustice, institutional racism, the system. It just basically
So it's great. So I've been listening, guys. I just sorted my son out, and yeah, Lambs, what you're saying is it's quite traumatic, isn't it? You know, we all know what happened to him still to this day. You know, it's shocking, but you know, we're told that there's no institutional racism in this place. So, you know, what you're led to believe. You know, I think we all know what we believe, but it's just a shame. Every day getting up is a battle, and I don't care what anyone says. You know, you actually need to be grateful for coming home now. Literally, like you were saying about Stephen. I mean, 1993, guys. Like
I wasn't
1993. Like, so, I mean, big up to their family, because their families. One of the reasons why we have the Equality Act. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's because what they fought for, and
it, like, however many decades later, they managed to, I think, prosecute 2 of the 3 people involved. There's still somebody involved that they haven't managed to catch up to, and they still can't really identify. And, you know, they're probably never really going to be able to, because the guy's probably moved away, changed his name, and he's been, you know, he probably has the resources and tools to do that because of who he is. He's allowed that privilege. And again, that's the word I want to use, because it is privilege that none of us sitting here would ever be able to get away with murder. And not even just murder, it's a hate crime murder. It's hate directed for absolutely no reason. And again, because this stuff happens constantly, and I'm not a parent yet, but I would be terrified too, because the thought of like, this could happen to your children for no reason at all. They can be minding their own business, and one day they might leave in the morning and they might not come home. And for people that come from our backgrounds, from our ethnicity, this is a real nightmare for these mothers, for these parents. Every single day their child leaves that house, they're wondering, is somebody going to attack my child? Is somebody going to frame them, set them up? Are they going to, just get killed because somebody doesn't like the color of their skin?
And then potentially you could be told, we're not aware of your son. He's not in the. He's not a troublemaker, so we're not aware of him. We don't know him.
He just fits
being a parent,
the description.
Yeah, it does fit the script. And imagine to be told that, sorry, we don't know where he is. Sorry, I know I'm switching it, but to the auntie that recently just they can't find her son.
Richard, yeah.
You're told that it's just dismissed. That's it.
I saw a very interesting tweet that because Richard's mum went to the police, as you do when there's a missing child, and said, my child is missing, has been missing for this amount of time, help. And I said, well, if you don't know where your son is, allegedly they said, if you don't know where your son is, how will we know where he is? And it's like, the same people that have been looking for Madeleine McCann for 14 years when she went missing in a different country, huh? The same institution. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you literally say to somebody, to a mother of a missing child? If you don't know where he is, how are we meant to know?
Linda, thank you so much for bringing up that point, because again, if anybody who's just tuned in hasn't seen the whole of the stream, if you don't need any more evidence of the institutional racism in these systems and structures that are set up in this country, right? Yes, they are British citizens, but she didn't even go missing on British soil. And you saw the effort, the dedication, the attention, that was money that was invested and targeted to find this girl because of who she is. And not even 10% of that attention, that focus would ever be redirected to somebody of an ethnic minority if it happens to them on English soil.
Well, it's not. We don't even have to use a hypothetical. We don't have to say if it happens. They don't. It currently happens, and they don't do that. And I think it's very, very. It's clear to make the distinction that it's not that we're saying that the time and the effort and the resources, if they're available, shouldn't be spent on finding a missing child wherever they've gone missing. 100%, every child. What we're saying is every child, though. Not just every child that's appealing to you guys, not just everyone that's going to get the sympathy of the public in the press. No, every child then. No parent of a missing child should ever hear the words that woman heard, ever. Should never hear that. You're stressed, you're freaking out, you're worried, you're freaking out that your child is missing. You go to the place where they tell you need to go, which is the police, and the police treat you like that. Doreen Lawrence did actually also talk about the report to The Guardian. She gave an interview to The Guardian. The link is in the description if you want to have a read. It's very, very interesting. The crux of it is that she does obviously condemn the report, the Sewell report, the Crud report, whatever you want to call it, and actually goes further to say that it actually gives racists the green light. And I think she's not wrong. I think it's a positive for racists when they see that, the government isn't denouncing them in any kind of real way, is kind of proving that there will be no accountability and there will be no punishment if you are out here doing mad things. That's how it reads. It's kind of that dog whistle thing where it's like you're almost being told it's okay to be hateful. It's fine. Yeah. It's okay. And it's basically that's what's being said most of the time, in addition to gaslighting the fuck out of us, of course. But yeah, I just think it's a sad state of affairs. I also just quickly, while we're still speaking about Stephen Lawrence's murder, it's still very, very much triggering to me, the way he was murdered, the way so many Black people in particular are targeted, but also very many different ethnicities as well. Get this. And then it's like our lives just didn't matter at all. And obviously that's what Black Lives Matter is about. But I remember when Liam Neeson gave that interview, and he was talking about his sister's rape, and that all that she knew it was a Black guy, and that he went out with a kosh, aka a weapon. He was so angry and so hurt and so dismayed that he wanted to just kill the next Black person that he saw. And it's only by the grace of non-diversity in his area he didn't run up on a Black guy in the time that he did that. I think it was like 2 weeks or something that he was doing that, and then he stopped. He realized what he was doing was wrong. But it's just like, that triggered me so much. And I haven't been able to enjoy another Liam Neeson movie. I think a lot of people are giving him grace and saying he admitted that he was wrong. It was acknowledging that he was wrong. And it wasn't that he was even caught. He brought it up to prove the fact that he understands that what he did was wrong, and that he wanted to, you know, I guess reach out to people that have felt a certain way and tell them that it's wrong almost. But for me, it didn't work that way. Hearing that, for me, it was thank God there were no Black people in your area for that 2 weeks. Thank God, because that would have been another Black boy that had absolutely nothing to do with the attack on his sister, that was just minding his business, maybe going to school, maybe going to work, maybe going to meet friends, maybe going to play football, maybe just literally just walking on the street, minding his own business, and would have been attacked for his skin. And I can't get over that. I can't. I don't care if you never got caught and you were saying that you knew it was wrong. I don't care if you were taking accountability for your actions. I don't care, because the only reason one or more Black people didn't die unjustly at your hands was because they just didn't live in your area. That's the only reason. It's not because you held yourself back. It's because you didn't see a Black guy.
Didn't have access. Thank goodness.
So it's to me, that's not a story that makes me feel comfortable and confident and happy-go-lucky and, oh, look, he's been held accountable for it. No, actually, it makes me think of Stephen Lawrence. It makes me think of all of the young Black boys, the older Black men, whoever, that have just been targeted simply for being Black in the street and killed, and their mother has to bury them and hope they can get some kind of justice, and then of course they don't. So let's move on to things that people should be keeping an eye out on, because this is getting very depressing. I'm trying not to be depressed, but it is what it is. Keep an eye out on our allies, I think, is probably going to be the first one. Particular, if you look over to our closest allies, our special relationship with the US. So Georgia in particular, if you were paying attention to the American politics that led up to Biden's win, you will know that Georgia played the most crucial role in getting a Democratic majority, getting Trump out and getting Biden in as president. They were key in that as a state. And that was because of the work of people like Stacey Abrams and other mainly Black women who were leading up organizations and leading up movements to make sure that people were no longer disenfranchised. People would go out and vote, making sure that they got meals and food and drink and all that kind of stuff when they were queuing up. Because how the suppression works in Georgia especially is that in the areas that would normally vote blue, in the areas where there's more diversity, where there are more non-whites living in the area, what they do is they close several polling stations so that lots of people have to go to the same ones. Certain neighborhoods don't have polling stations at all and will have to go to the neighboring neighborhood to vote. And what that means is you end up having super duper long lines. Nobody likes a queue, but the reason this is a problem is you don't get a day off to vote. Election day isn't a day off work. It's not a public holiday. So you have to take the time out from work. And if you are working a minimum wage job or a job that is per hour, it means you actually lose money on it if your boss even allows you to go out and vote. And if they do, you then have to somehow be able to stand in this queue for ages. So there were lots of charity food and drink, keeping them motivated, giving them energy, encouraging them to stay in the line, stay in the line. They cannot turn you away, stay in the line. It was all over news, people showing the footage of it, stay in the line. Even once the polling station is closed, if you still haven't voted, but you were in the queue, it is illegal for the staff to turn you away. And obviously every vote counts. So stay in the line, well, Republicans saw this. They saw everything that Georgia was able to do. And they said, you know what? Let's make it even harder. We're going to make it illegal to give water to people in the queue. So now you cannot give water to people standing in the queues at these voting stations. Now, when elections happen, they can happen at varying times of the year, but Georgia is a very hot state. It's in the South. It is hot. Okay. So what you're saying is you want hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people to be in this one queue in the Georgia sun all day because you purposely closed voting stations or polling stations, and now it's illegal to give them water so that they can
right, by the way, a basic, not even just a human right, a basic survival right, human survival right.
What we need, yeah. So these organizations are doing workarounds, and what they're saying is they're actually going to pick people up. They're going to hire buses, like minibuses, pick people up at certain places, and then give them little baggies of, hand sanitizer, water, food, like little snacks and things, and give them each like an individual care package, and then drop them off at the polling station so that by the time they actually get to the queue, they have everything that they need and they don't have to give it to them in line. So first of all, have you guys seen this? What are your thoughts on what's going on over in the US today?
I'll go first because I'll be really quick. I have seen this. Of course, they will. It just goes to show they will stop at absolutely nothing to frustrate and make your life so difficult. Because, like you said, this is what they use. These are the tactics that they use. You're going to sit here and I think Trevor Noah actually mentioned it on the Daily. I don't know if anybody watches his Daily Show, but great way of, incorporating hard, disgusting truths about politics with a little bit of comedy because, he's a comedian. What was the filibuster when he was talking about that? And it's just a prime way of literally just doing everything that they can to just stop bills and legislations from passing, all on the grounds of racism. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And again,
just to add to that, Lam, so sorry to interrupt you, but you were talking about Trevor Noah on the Daily Show. Also, if you like that type of thing and you want to see funny breakdowns of the crazy things that they do, particularly in the States, also watch the Patriot Act with Hassan Minhaj on Netflix. It's great. It's fantastic. Sorry to interrupt.
That's kind of basically what I basically want to say. So like that, the use of the filibuster, and the whole reason why it even came about in the first place, and it came about as an accident, but they found a way to use it and utilize it to just stop people like getting positions in power. And if you look this up, actually, the filibuster was used the most in the history since its conception, all throughout office during Obama's tenure, to literally stop any kind of legislation, law, bill, anything passing through. And I think there was one senator, I can't remember his name because it just makes me sick and he's so relevant. He literally he used the filibuster to filibuster his own bill. Like that's literally because he was just known as like the Grim Reaper, just literally just blocking every single bill, everything that was passing during Obama's time in office. And this is just another prime example. Oh, look at them rallying together, thinking that they can overcome the system, us, people in power. Okay, well, we have all the power. So like you said, we can make this law, we can put this in writing, we can say, you can't do this, you can't do this. And all of these are efforts, attempts, techniques to just wear us down, because everybody has a breaking point. So they just want to wear people down. Can you take any more? Can you take any more? We're going to pass some more. Can you take any more? And keep on doing this until we're just like, I give up.
Until you hit breaking point.
Stop. Yeah, just make it stop. And it's, I guess that's all I kind of want to say. It's frustrating, but it's just, it's there. And we need to be stronger. Like, people need to understand this is what they're doing. Don't succumb. Like, we know it's going on. Here's the evidence, please.
Yeah, I was going to.
I've got another tag. Go on, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, I was only going to say it's not just Georgia why it is, but it's literally every state that the Republicans lost that they've tried to do it, and they have been thrown out in a lot of states by the lawmakers to say no. Look, this is just too blatantly obvious. Like, you got to wind it in a little bit. You got to it's not a new thing. Like, gerrymandering, everything, it's been going on for a long time. Like, if you go in the States, especially, if you go back to like Jim Crow and stuff like that, it's like there's another like blatant, like, Jim Crow was the benchmark of institutional racism in the United States after the slavery got abolished. That was like white power being white power, and it's getting close to that again with just legal rulings, and it's going to start happening more and more so over here. It started to happen in Manchester not too long ago when they started messing about with the Greater Manchester areas and stuff like that, where you're going to end up voting and stuff like that. It's not a new way of doing stuff in this country, but it's going to become more prevalent, I feel, in the UK.
And that's why I think it's always important to watch what our allies are doing, because if they're doing it first, more likely it's going to happen here, and vice versa. If we do something, more likely they're going to take it on. If they see that it's succeeding, if they see that it's effective in achieving the mission of hoarding power and wealth, they will use it too. And I think it's always great to watch our closest allies to get an indication of what we're about to do. What tricks and tips have you given our systems here, our government? Because I just find it interesting. How did you get away with it in your country? Oh, okay, that's what they'll try and do here. I think it's important that's a great way to, I think, combat the gaslighting, is to try and think a few steps ahead. Try and think how they think, right? And go, how are you going to use that to your advantage here? Okay, let's fight that. Fight that now, because if you don't fight it, then it might be too late once the ball's rolling. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's great, Mike, that you mentioned what they've been doing in outskirts of Manchester in terms of polling stations, because it is a very old trick in the book, but it's effective. So why fix it, right? Why change it? Just tweak it and make it work for the current times and the current place that you're in. Companies have been coming under fire. Georgia-based companies are becoming under fire for not actively speaking out against what the Republicans have been doing with regards to voter suppression. One of them being Coca-Cola. Just wanted to point that out. There's an encouragement to boycott Coca-Cola. I don't know if anyone's heard it. I'm the type where I'm like, I said on episode 1 that I struggle with, giving up things like Amazon. I'm a work in progress, trying not to give them money where possible, but, I'm still falling short on that. But little boycotts, I've actually held up. I don't know if everyone remembers, but you remember there was a time we were all boycotting Gucci because of the hoodie that they had with the minstrel basically on it. I remembered that and I was like, I'm never buying a Gucci perfume again. And I still haven't. I'm so proud of myself for that, because usually I suck at this kind of thing. Also, haven't shopped at H&M since Coolest Monkey in the Jungle was put on that young black boy. Have not bought anything from H&M, even though it would have been very convenient when I needed a few bits that I knew I could have found in there. Still didn't do it. And I walk past an H&M pretty much every day as well when I'm at the office.
Good for you.
So with Coca-Cola, I didn't think I would partake, because I was like, well, different distribution companies, blah, blah, blah. It's not even the same corporation technically when you look at the UK version. But the other day after my walk, I was in Morrison's and I went to pick up a vitamin water. I was like, I haven't had this in ages. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure Coke owns this. And I looked around the side and sure enough, Coca-Cola. And I was just like, let me put it back and just get a regular water. And then when I was getting drinks for yesterday's Talk About It Network special, I wanted to do rum and Coke. And I was like, Pepsi Max it is. I was like, I know Pepsi pissed us off during the protest last year, but it's Coca-Cola's turn this year. So let's switch over to Pepsi
100%.
Max, and just little things like that. Like, I know it sounds silly, and I know that if most people don't do it, then it doesn't affect the corporation. But sometimes it makes me feel a little bit better. I'm like, I'm teaching you a lesson in my own little way. I'm getting Pepsi Max. Screw
You're
you.
100% right. And do you know what, Linda? I completely agree with you. And it's small things like that I've kind of started doing whereas before I would probably give my money to these like corporations and stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I need like a new top, a new jumper, a new pair of jeans, leggings, why don't I go and support my friends or my peers and their startup businesses, their companies instead? Why don't I put my money in there? That's a worthier cause to me. So I would rather do that than, again, literally continue to fund, because if we keep on funding them, they keep on winning. So we need to be smarter than that. We need to reinvest our money back into ourselves and each other, because that is how we start getting recognized financially.
And you know, also with that, yeah, and I want to add something else to that about being able to recognize yourself. Stop putting into these into these corporate businesses. I don't know why I can't say the word. Also, I want to say that it doesn't just apply to businesses. It applies to content creating, to YouTube, to media work, all kinds of media work. You know, a wise bunch of men, young men, told me, you don't need Sky Sports, you don't need BT Sports, you don't need Talk Sport, you don't need all these things. When you're coming up with these ideas and people are watching you, you don't need hierarchies on YouTube to approve of you. You know, like, invest in yourself, literally, and like invest where people look after you. Do you know what I mean? Especially when they look after your own. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
It kind of goes back to what we were saying on episode 1, right? We're talking about the ecosystem, support the ecosystem. If you've got a little bit extra money, you need something, spend it on your ecosystem. Give it to the people that entertain you, that look after you, that are there for you, that are there, part of your community. That's what the wealthy do. They don't really be spending money like that. Like, you see how, like, all these people, especially like massive celebrities, the ones that are super rich, right? I'm not talking about just the, you know, people that have clout, even though I hate that term now, but I'm talking about actually wealthy celebrities. They don't really spend money like that. Like, designers will come to them and say, wear this so that people can see it on you. It's a walking billboard for us, right? They don't really pay for stuff. The stuff they do pay for, though, is stuff that goes to each other effectively. They want to keep the wealth where the wealth is. That's how money works. That's literally, money is a game. It's not even a real thing. It's just a concept. But you keep it in the area that you want to flourish, right? And you keep it amongst yourselves so that you're always continuously wealthy. That's literally what the wealthy do. They use our labor and take our money, our taxes, and then they take this money and they go, put it over here, keep it here in this smaller circle so that we will remain wealthy, and so will our generations to come. And so it's really important that even though we don't have that type of wealth, we can't not work. We can't afford to just sign out of society and do our own thing. Not yet anyway, one day maybe. But for now, let's try and keep some money in our ecosystem. Let's try not to bleed out too much of our money. So if you do have friends who sell merch, at this point, I think I've almost got more merch in terms of sweatshirts and tops than I do regular like t-shirts and stuff. Like, I just have merch now, which is great. I love it. Yeah, if your friends sell merch, if your favorite musician who's not that well known sells merch, or, has a CD in this day and age, or, has something out that's, streamable, you have a little bit of extra money, put a little bit of something in your friend's pocket, put a little bit of something in your favorite content creator's pocket to keep them going. Look at around you, look at your community, your ecosystem. Do you like the message that's around you? All right, support them, because we get that support. If we feel that support, that goes some way to combating the gaslighting as well, because we're being gaslit every day. But if we're also being supported and recognized by our loved ones and our community and our ecosystem, then that makes us feel a tiny bit better and helps us to go and face the bullshit that we ultimately have to go face the next day. Speaking of bullshit, I just want to quickly point out that, our ecosystem is also important, because sometimes the media, the people that are entrusted to actually give us information, don't. And that is what happens with this next story. So speaking of our allies, France. again, literally next door neighbor. Both Lambs and I, before we went on live, actually spoke about this thing that we've been seeing on Twitter, but we can't find it when you Google it, when you look at the French press. I've gone through quite a lot and I couldn't find really any real French press coverage on this, even though it's government action. So Sana Saeed, a host of AJ Plus, was among several people on Twitter who posted on Wednesday the 31st, about some changes that have been made. So Sana says, French Senate has voted that no girl under the age of 18 can wear hijab in public, and that no Muslim mothers in hijab can be on school field trips. An absolutely trash and fascist state. Islamophobia and Islamophobic laws are not new to France. It's very, very common. But this takes it a huge step. And the fact that the media, the trusted journalists that are supposed to get the truth and the news out to you, especially about what your government is doing, for them to have not really made a fuss about this says that as an institution, they agree. And if they all agree with each other and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing and it affects Muslims, I'd argue that was institutional racism, no?
Here's another piece of evidence for those watching why institutional racism does exist. Tom Sewell, please take note. We have possibly, in this whole show so far, given you at least 10 examples.
Mm-hmm. And yes, there are things that we can do. There are things that we can do, like vote. So that brings me on to the next point. First of all, if you have not registered to vote, if you are not on the electoral roll, please, even if you're only registering to vote because you want to have slightly better credit score, even if that's your only reason, just do it. Okay, please register to vote. Register to vote. Don't worry about people tracking you and knowing where you live and all that. They already know where you live. Okay, we live in a smart world right now. Everyone knows where everyone is. Whatever government agency needs to find you at this moment, they can. So don't worry about all that. Register to vote. Please, there is a deadline of the 19th of April to register to vote in order to vote in the May elections. Yes, there are elections coming up on the 6th of May. Please, please, please keep an eye out. In the description, there is the top link is how to register to vote. The second link is what the local elections are actually happening, so that you can find out what's happening near you and what you can actually vote for and how. Okay, so a number of the elections that are taking place on the 6th of May include local council elections in England, local and combined authority mayoral elections, Mayor of London and London Assembly elections are happening as well. Police and crime commissioner elections in England and Wales, and there are 2 parliamentary elections, one in Wales, one in Scotland. Okay, a lot is happening on the 6th of May. A lot of stuff was postponed from last year because of the pandemic, which is why so much seems to be happening on one day. So please, please, please use the links in the description to 1, make sure that you're registered to vote, and for 2, to find out what elections you can actually vote in and how you can do that in May.
You can postal vote as well, so you don't actually have to go and queue up.
You don't have to
register.
go up.
Yeah.
Yes, you can postal vote. The deadline is the same even for postal votes. So it means that you don't have to go out and queue out. If you're worried that you won't be vaccinated by May, you don't want to chance it, you don't want to chance your health, absolutely understand that. You can vote by mail as well. So please, 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 the first thing that you need to do before anything else, check that you're registered to vote, then see what elections are happening near you and what you can do, how you can vote for them. Okay, so that brings me nicely on to the Northern Independence Party. Mike, would you like to chat to us a little bit about who they are, what the hell it is?
A little bit, just a little bit, right? From what I can gather, the Northern Independence Party are brought about from the shit post left. It's the only way I can describe it. I don't understand if they actually think they can get dependence for the north of England, or they're just standing as a socially democratic socialist party who want to push. That's it. And I think people are getting confused about what they are actually aiming for. And I think it is just literally they are the left version of UKIP. They're there to try and split votes. I appreciate it. I love it. I think it's anything to get the Labour Party and the left in general to get the themselves together and work as a proper socialist party, I'm all for it. But I don't know if they'll ever win a seat. They are running for a first seat on the 6th of May in the northeast. It was a Labour MP who went independent and now is running for that. I can't wait. I feel it might not be them, but they're going to a change in the way the left politics is running this country has got to change because of it. I'm genuinely hopeful about it.
I hope so, because the last time some Labour MPs went off and started their own party, I'm thinking about Change UK, not very much happened, and then they just disappeared in general. So I hope that something is happening that is going to unite the left, that's going to represent the left, because I don't think Keir Starmer does.
Change, I would also argue Change was the ultimate centrist party. Like, they didn't feel in any way, shape or form left. They was just, look at us, we're a bunch of liberal centrists. We don't like the Labour Party, but we don't really want to be anything but the Labour Party. It was a weird 6 months in politics. And I think we're starting an even weirder 6 months in politics with the Northern Independence Party. It's going to be wild. I can't wait to see Twitter explode if they actually do win a seat. It'd be incredible.
I mean, I'm here for it. I'm here for the dramatics. I'm here to see what the hell is going on. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen, because they just kind of spurred out of nowhere, and I feel like if they don't disappear in the same fashion, it's going to be an interesting watch. It's going to make for some. If you're into politics anyway, and you're into all of that, it's going to be an interesting watch. So it will be for me. All right. Well, we've gone on a bit long, so I just want to end on some good news, because it got a bit depressing because racism. So I just wanted to speak about two things that cheered me up that I saw recently since episode 1. And the first thing is that the Open Democracy they won a lawsuit over Matt Hancock's £23 million NHS data deal with Palantir. So we spoke a little bit about the corruption that's going on. Matt Hancock basically selling off our NHS to the highest bidder. It's all being done in secret, and now not so secret, because they've noticed that they're just not getting any pushback, any real pushback. So they're just doing whatever they want anyway. But it was really, really great to see that Open Democracy won a lawsuit against them, which just made me happy. So there's some justice in the world sometimes. And then the next thing, which really made me happy, this all happened this week. I was over the moon. I love to see it. Students at Pimlico Academy, they were protesting the head teacher's new racist policy banning Afro hair and colourful hijabs. They staged a sit-in on Wednesday. They said, we're not going to class. We're sitting right here on the playground. They all just sat down. And by afternoon, before end of play, not only had the teachers voted in majority, no confidence in the head teacher, but also the demands of these kids, these amazing kids, were met. Every single one of them. I just want to quickly tell you what their demands were. It made me so happy. You can't tell, I'm not giddy. So the first demand was that the school must create an environment where victims of sexual assault feel safe, comfortable and supported. For this to happen, sexual assault allegations need to be taken seriously by teachers, and measures need to be carried out to punish perpetrators accordingly. They go on a little bit in more detail, but that's the gist of it. The second demand was, you have not tried to make students who come from ethnic minorities feel comfortable with who they are. Ethnic minorities are not commemorated in the way that white British culture is. Black History Month, they talk about that. They talk about Black Lives Matter movement, basically talking about the way the spaces that they make for white British culture should be made for all other cultures, so that they can have a bit more representation. And the third demand was about that uniform policy. The uniform policy is extremely discriminatory in several different ways and needs to be altered. Firstly, the policy regarding how girls should wear their hijabs is extremely insensitive, and in no way is it anyone's right to tell a young girl or woman how to wear their headscarf and how to practice their religion. It goes on again a bit more, but I wanted to make a little point that I noticed on Twitter about Afro hair. So you mean to tell me that you want to punish kids who have hair growing out of their head naturally as it grows, but especially when the barbers haven't even been open since last year because of this pandemic? So literally they couldn't even go get it cut if they wanted to go get it cut. And you want to tell them that they're going to get in trouble, expelled, whatever, because of it. That makes it even worse. Like, it's terrible anyway. It's racist already. But to add to the fact that barbers haven't been open because of this pandemic, and that's naturally how their hair grows out of their head,
Yep.
you then want to ban that from the school. Fuck this head teacher. And
For
that's-
real, I echo that sentiment. I want to say some much more. I want to use some much more colourful language, but we'll go with what you said, Linda.
Yeah, yeah. Because I read that, and you know, when I heard that their demands were met, I thought to myself, we have hope.
Oh, it was beautiful.
You
By
know?
the end of the day, by the end of the same day.
But then just shows you, isn't it? If everyone does actually stand up for what is right, look what the people can do. It's just a shame that some of the people won't bother to stand up. They will just stand back and watch. But hey, that's for another conversation, right?
That's a conversation for another day. But it does show the power of protest. It's that's what a protest is. That's all a protest is. Look at what the students did. Literally all a protest is to disrupt by saying, nope, we are not taking part in what you're doing today. We are going to sit here. We are going to tell you what we think is wrong about what you're imposing on us. This is how we expect you to fix it. Meet our demands. We'll go back to normal. And you know what they did? They went back to normal the next day because their demands were met. Right? That's how protest works. And that's why it's important to kill this bill.
I was just going to mention, it just makes what Nordine, like the footage that we saw out earlier on in the stream as well, that much more important, because look at what right they're trying to take away from us, guys. They're trying to say that if we don't agree with a certain policy, a certain law, a bill being passed, because of how blatantly racist, disgusting, discriminatory, limited it is, basically, they're taking away our voice to basically speak up and say, we don't agree with this is wrong. And do you know what that starts turning into, guys? We move away from a democracy and towards a dictatorship.
Yep. And I think I just want to add to that by saying, if you want to know where your power is, look at what they're trying to take away. Yeah. So they take away from our time and energy by making us go to work, right? For corporations, right? They take that because it's powerful. It's a resource, right? So they take that. They take our money because money is, it's a massive resource. It's a massive tool for power, right?
Yep.
What else they try and take? Well, they say, we're not going to make it so easy for you to vote. You know why? Because our vote is powerful.
Yeah.
And then they say, all right, well, you voted us in now, so you have to wait until next time when you can vote. You can't disagree. You can't go out and protest what we're doing while we're in power. So that means that protest is also powerful. So look at everything that they try to take away from you if you want to know where your power lies. And we are powerful. That's the ultimate good news, I think, that we should probably end on, is that we are powerful. Our voices do matter. Our votes still do currently count. And until such time as they don't, we need to make sure that we use what we can to stop the government, the institutions, whoever has any kind of power over us. We need to stop them from abusing it every single chance that we get. And if we get tired, we know that there's so many of us now that we want to get to a point where there's so many of us that if I'm tired, I know I can go rest because Lambs has got me, because Bob's has got me, because Mike has got me, right? And when Lambs is tired, like she's ill today, she knows that she can go rest, and I've got her, and Bob's has got her, and Mike has got her. And if we all can get that sense that we are supporting each other, so that when this does ultimately get overwhelming, because it does, you can go rest, you can go recharge your batteries, because your ecosystem, your community has got you. And hopefully these bloody Tories will be voted out at some point.
Exactly.
But listen, thank you so much for joining us. I know we went on for a bit, guys. We'll try and get this down to 90 minutes. We'll try. There's just so much mess that we have to cover. I mean, we're only human.
There's actually just so much to talk about. That's why.
There's
100%.
so much. Listen, thank you for staying with us this long. For those of you that are still watching, that have been commenting, again, I've been really terrible about putting comments up. I'll work on that next time. But yeah, thank you for joining us. I don't really have anything to promote. Just click the links in the description. Please, please, please register to vote before the 19th of April, please, and make sure that you vote in these elections coming up next month.
Yeah.
Anyone got anything that they want to shout out real quick before we go?
Well, yeah, I hope Flawless won't mind, but he loves music as well. So I've just secured an interview. I'm going to be talking to Henry, the Kiss FM DJ. So we've got that on Monday afternoon. So yeah, check it out. Bits and Bobs on Monday, 2:00. And that's it really. Thanks for. I'm glad. You know, that was very therapeutic. I'm not going to lie. Like I really, really needed that. And you know, it's you know, for people that are not into politics, I always say to my black friends, go read, because this is about you. It affects you. You know, when you think to yourself, I wonder why I never got put for that promotion. Me and so-and-so are good friends. Oh, that's weird. You know, but they'll still ask you to do a certain job, but they won't give you the promotion. It affects us. And, you know, and Mike, to be honest, it affects your community as well, because those are the people that see things are not happening. This is not equal. This is not right. It affects you guys as well. And also, listen, with the Tories, if you're not earning a certain amount of money, you're with us, mate.
Yeah, I'm in the trenches. I'm a working class lad from the north. I know. Where I live was a mining town. Think about it. Like you're not going to get someone who's quite as. Like, I hate's a harsh word. No, I hate them. I hate the Tories. I hate everything about them. They stand in the way of progress. And that's what conservatism is. Yeah. No matter where you are in the world, if your party says we're conservative, you're probably standing in the way of progress.
Republicans, Conservatives, all one and the damn same.
And what I hate is when we have people that are supposed to be representing progression who then just want to appease everyone and are actually little plants like Keir Starmer. And I just also, while we were talking about our allies as well, keep an eye out on France. A lot of people are saying that Marine Le Pen is now ahead in the polls. She's looking good. That is pure fascism. You think France is fascist now?
I think it's back.
Marine Le Pen.
Oof.
Listen, Macron has a lot of faults. He ended up being basically our version of a Tory. But when we talk about Marine Le Pen, it's like it's a level of fascism we haven't seen for a while. So please, guys, keep an eye out on what's going on. Be aware.
Can I just basically just to kind of touch up on that point? We're seeing this happen politically in the votes in very recent years, literally like coming maybe back to 2016, starting with, guys, we're seeing it. It's happening. The Brexit vote, Donald Trump being elected, Boris Johnson being elected. What's happening in France? Guys, this is happening. It's real. The people that smile at you every single day and pretend to like you, they don't really like you. And think about it. How many times have you waved over to them? Have you ever been to their house? Have you ever been invited? Something important? No.
Guys, do you know what the funny thing
Have
is?
they recommended you for a promotion or a job in their company? No. Really think about this, people. Really, because the evidence is all around you. All you have to do is look. It's there. You can't miss it.
And what I will say to that as well, to add to that, right, guys, is that see the people that voted for Brexit. The way it was advertised that we were going to get all the ethnics out. They weren't going to get our jobs that you don't apply for, jobs that you have no interest in doing, you know, cleaners, security guards, you know.
Yeah.
No, but let's work. We'll say the list. There's jobs that certain British people don't want to do, but we will, because we know what it's like to earn money to provide for our family. Okay, now the same people that won't work will vote for the Tories because they're trying to say they're taking our job. But the same people that don't work, the Tories don't like you. Literally, they don't like you. If it was up to, if they could, and I'm sure they will, they'll take away benefits. and
They
put it
literally
out
do it all the time.
So,
Yeah.
so do you know what I mean?
To go spend $100 grand on PPE from a brow and lash place, they'll take away your benefit. They'll vilify you in the press, and they'll say that you're sitting there on your ass. How dare you during a pandemic be unemployed right now? How dare you be on universal credit? You're abusing the system. We should make it harder for you.
There you go.
All you have to do is listen to combat the gaslighting, support your community, support your ecosystem, read, educate yourself. If you find certain things boring, watch shows like this and listen to us cuss out the Tories for a bit every other Saturday.
Watch the Patriot Show, watch the Daily Show with Trevor Noah.
Yeah.
Watch all of these things.
Watch Jon Stewart as well. He does amazing breakdowns of the
Same way
insanity
you put
of
energy in
conservatism.
watching a TikTok video, a reel, or Google or Nike or whatever, Adidas, whatever. Use that energy to prep yourself, literally. And
Literally be ready, because what you don't want is these things do affect you. Whether you have interest in them or not, they will affect you at some point.
100%.
Yeah. So please pay attention where you can. Look after yourself. Lots of self-care, please. Make sure that you're looking after yourself, your family, your loved ones, and your community. And tune in 2 weeks from now on this channel at 3:00 for episode 3 of What's Politicking You Off. In the meantime, though, enjoy your Saturday. I'm so sorry we put a damper on it, but hopefully there are a few silver linings in there to help you get through. All right. And with that, we'll catch you later.
See you later.
Bye.